There's this legendary story about Harriet Beecher Stowe meeting Abraham Lincoln. Apparently, he said something like, "So you're the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war?" Now, who knows if that actually happened, but it tells you everything about the incredible power of the book we're diving into today, Uncle Tom's Cabin. So, how does a story that powerful even start? Well, it's not with a cannon shot or a political debate. Nope. This entire epic, a story that would literally shake the foundations of a nation, begins with something much quieter, a single entry in a ledger book. One financial deal is about to tear two families' worlds apart, sending one on a desperate race to freedom and the other on a devastating journey deeper into bondage. All right, so let's set the scene. We're on what looks like a respectable farm in Kentucky. It's owned by a man who, in his own mind, isn't a bad guy. But that whole idea of benevolent slavery, it's about to be put to the ultimate test by a pile of debt. So you've got this guy, Arthur Shelby. He and his wife, they really believe they're kind to the people they enslave. But when financial ruin comes knocking, that kindness, well, it vanishes pretty quickly. To save his farm, he makes a choice that exposes the whole lie of humane ownership. He agrees to sell two human beings, a man named Uncle Tom and a little boy named Harry. And this isn't just a transaction. It's like a bomb going off in the middle of two families. On one hand, you have Uncle Tom. He's the rock of his own family, a man whose entire life is built on his deep Christian faith. On the other hand, you've got little Harry, the son of the family's maid, Eliza. And here's the gut punch. Eliza had been promised that her son would never be sold away from her, a promise that's about to be turned to dust. So right here, the story splits into two completely different paths. It cleaves right down the middle. First up, let's follow the mother who will stop at nothing to save her child. This is Eliza's story. Eliza, she doesn't hesitate for a second. The moment she overhears the plan, boom, she grabs her son and they are gone, vanishing into the night. What follows is one of the most intense and famous chase scenes in all of American literature. They're pursued all the way to the banks of the frozen Ohio River, where she has to make an impossible choice. It's an absolutely harrowing journey, but she eventually finds safety with a Quaker community and finally gets to reunite with her husband as they make their way to Canada. And that scene, the crossing of the Ohio River, it's the image from this book. You have to understand that river wasn't just a physical barrier. It was the line. It was the border between a country that saw her as property and a place that might see her as a person. That desperate leap from one chunk of ice to the next, it became this powerful symbol of a mother's fierce, unbreakable love. Okay, but while Eliza is literally running for her life towards freedom, Tom's journey goes in the complete opposite direction. He's not going north. He's being sent south, down the river, deeper and deeper into the brutal heart of the slave economy. Now, you might be wondering, why doesn't Tom just run too? He makes a conscious choice not to. He trusts that by going quietly, he's actually protecting his family and the other people back on the Shelby farm. But his journey down the Mississippi is just a descent into hell. There is this one brief, fragile moment of hope. After he saves a little girl named Eva from drowning, her father, Augustine St. Clair, buys him. But in this world, any kindness is like a flickering candle in a hurricane. Tragedy strikes. St. Clair dies suddenly, and just like that, Tom is right back on the auction block. And Tom's journey really shows you the two starkly different faces of slavery. In New Orleans, you've got St. Clair. He's a man who actually knows slavery is evil, but he feels powerless, trapped in the system. He treats Tom with kindness. And then there's Simon Legree out in rural Louisiana. Legree isn't just a slave owner. He is the personification of the system's absolute brutality. For a guy like him, Tom's goodness and faith aren't virtues. Oh no, they're a direct challenge to his power, and one that he is determined to break. Let's be really clear about Simon Legree. This guy isn't just a bad boss. He is the novel's ultimate villain. He gets his kicks from cruelty, and when he sees Tom's unbreakable spirit, he doesn't see a good person, he sees a threat. He sees something that needs to be crushed, a will that has to be broken. So you've got this unstoppable force of cruelty in Legree and this immovable object of faith in Tom. You just know they're on a collision course. And that collision, well, it brings us to the story's powerful, tragic, and unforgettable climax. So picture this. Tom helps two enslaved women, Cassie and Emmeline, to escape. Legree is absolutely furious. He knows Tom knows where they went, and he demands answers. He puts Tom in an impossible position. So what does he do? He refuses. flat out. In that final moment, Tom's quiet faith becomes this incredible act of defiance. He will not be a part of the system's cruelty, not even to save his own skin. Legree, just totally enraged, orders him to be beaten to death. Tom dies a martyr, and with his last breath, he actually forgives the men who killed him. And that sacrifice, it wasn't for nothing. His silence bought those women the time they needed. Because Tom refused to speak, 2 people, Cassie and Emmeline, made it to freedom. 2 lives, saved by one man's ultimate act of courage. And this is where those 2 separate paths we've been following finally, unbelievably converge. Eliza's family makes it to Canada. And who does she find there in a wild twist of fate? Her own long-lost mother, Cassie, the very same woman Tom just died to save. Meanwhile, back in Kentucky, George Shelby, the son of Tom's original owner, shows up to buy Tom back, to bring him home, only to find out he's too late. So in Tom's honor, he returns to the farm and frees every single person his family enslaved. And that's George Shelby's final charge to the people he has just freed. Tom's little cabin, it's no longer just a building, it's a monument. And his life becomes a moral blueprint. His legacy isn't just about escaping slavery. It's about how you live a life with integrity and faith, even when you're facing unimaginable cruelty. So it all comes full circle. A story that started with one farmer's debt ends with one man's sacrifice. Look, Uncle Tom's Cabin was so much more than a book. It was an emotional earthquake. It took this big political issue of slavery and made it deeply personal, forcing a nation to look at the shattered families, the human cost. It made people feel the moral crime of it all. The novel's legacy is, for sure, complex and debated. But its central question, man, it remains just as powerful today as it ever was. In the face of absolute evil, what is the true nature of strength?